Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Color and Scribbles. My name is Rachel, and today I want to talk a little bit about how to light the face. And that is because the face is a big, fleshy dough ball that is understandably difficult to light and shade sometimes, so I just want to, give you some advice about how to do that better. So, first things first, I have a couple of tips that will hopefully help you out. So the first one is to get familiar with the planes of the face. So, one thing that will really help you when you are trying to light or shade the face is to break it up into planes. So you can see my little model there of the face, and that's kind of how I think about the face when I am drawing it. Those are the planes that I imagine. There are other versions of this. There are some people that prefer to do it much more geometrically. I do think of it in terms of curves, like for the cheekbones and the eye sockets, because those are naturally pretty curvy. But like the basic idea with this is just that if you think of it in terms of relatively flat surfaces, it's much easier to then shade. It becomes much more like a box. So instead of thinking of it as like this soft fleshy lump, you can think of it as these different surfaces that you're lighting. So this is definitely something that's helped me out a lot, and I would recommend practicing drawing the face this way and thinking of it this way, and then when it comes to doing it from imagination and trying to paint on light and shadows from imagination, keep this in mind when you're doing that. And then another detail, I suppose, that goes with that is that when you have these planes and these edges and these different surfaces, any time or any place that there's a crease, you don't want to just simply draw a line. This is a mistake that I see happen quite a bit, and anytime that you just draw straight up lines on the face, it's going to age your character like 20 years. So you want to avoid that as much as you can. And actually, even if your character is supposed to be older, you typically want to avoid using just straight up lines, because that's not how it actually works, because you don't have actual lines in your face besides at your mouth and your eyelids, because those are actually like, things that are coming together. So those are okay to do as lines, but everywhere else, as you can see, you want to indicate creases as value shifts. So it should just be one plane transitioning into another plane. So rather than just a simple line, you want to indicate that through just a tonal change, basically. So it goes from, you can see in the Painterly example, it's got a nice soft blend from light to dark rather than just a simple line, and it's just smoothly transitioning rather than, just a line. So yeah, and then the little side note there, a real face has smooth transitions between the planes. So while you are thinking of it in terms of planes, ultimately you do still have to have smooth transitions between those planes, because it is still a soft dough ball of a face. So yeah, that's the biggest thing. That has helped me out a lot. I hope that will help you out a lot. Tip number 2. This is also a big one. So you want to make sure that whenever you are painting light and shadows, that you have a clearly defined light source in your head. And for me, sometimes it helps to actually draw an arrow indicating the direction of the light. So that is something you could try if you are struggling to define your light sources. This is important even if you are trying to just kind of paint like a general character and you don't want it. Like even if it doesn't have like mood lighting or something, like even if the lighting is not important to the scene, it's still going to be important to making your character look correct. So you should still, clearly define a light source for yourself. So you can see in the first example that there is light apparently coming from a lot of different directions and contradicting other light sources, so that it doesn't make a lot of sense. Whereas in the second example, there's one nice clean light source and all of the shadows are acting accordingly. And yeah, if you, and as you can see in the note, if you are working with multiple light sources, what usually works best for me is if you completely flesh out the light and shadows of one light source and then add in the second light source afterwards. So rather than trying to kind of like juggle the light and shadows of both light sources at once, do one first and then apply the other one on top of it. So it'll be less confusing, it'll probably be less messy, and hopefully it will just help things go more smoothly for you when you're doing that. And lastly, this one is a little more, I guess, it's debatable, or this is a little more just like my preferences, I would say, and that is to use complementary colored light and shadows. So if you are using colored light of some kind, in this example I used yellow light, try adding the complement to that color into the shadows. So it's very subtle here because you do have to keep in mind the natural skin tone if you do something like this, because in this case the skin is like a pinkish, orangish kind of color, and that is, so you can't just paint blue on there because it's obviously going to still be pretty close to his normal skin color. But I think it's really nice, you can see in the one on the right that it has a little bit of purple. It's just got some hints of purple in the deepest parts of the shadows, and it gives it an extra layer of color, which gives it more dimension, and it also emphasizes the contrast between the lights and the shadows. So that's not something that you have to do, but it's something that is really fun to experiment with and can really affect like the depth and the dynamics of your light and shadows. So I would definitely recommend playing around with that once you get to the color stage of your lighting and shading. So yeah, those are my 3 basic tips, and now I'm going to do a speed painting and talk a little bit about what I'm doing there and kind of demonstrate some of these principles. Alrighty, so here is just me doing a little demo basically of some different lighting scenarios. This is just a sketch. These are just like super quick little examples basically. And for this demo, I mostly just focused on doing plain lighting, like I didn't do anything with colored lighting, I didn't do anything too crazy. I just focused on doing some simple lighting examples, but lighting the face from different angles. And my biggest goal with this was just to show you guys and ladies and everyone else, to show you all how the planes of the face work. That was really my biggest goal. So in this first example, this is just kind of a basic front of the face kind of lighting. This is just kind of a standard light where it's from our view it's coming from her upper right side, and it's a soft light. It's not anything too bright, and you can see where the shadows are. You can distinguish like the different planes of the face that I mentioned. You can see that I'm kind of working with those in that. With this second one, this is a little bit more of a strong light from the right side. I personally tend to bias my lighting towards the right because I'm right-handed, I think is why that happens, but obviously y'all can light whichever side you want. So this is a pretty strong light coming from the right side, and then I added a rim light to it. So you can kind of see just adding the second light at the end there. And with rim lights are really nice because all you have to do is just kind of draw a line pretty much on one side of, or whichever side is highlighted, or both sides if it's from directly behind. And then I usually use like a little bit of a soft brush on it to give it a little bit of a glow. This third one was really fun. This is a face that is lit from both sides with an equally strong light on each side. So it gets a really strange lighting setup that you don't normally see in everyday experiences, where the shadows are down the forehead and down the center of the nose. Like all these places that would normally naturally be very high lit are now in the shadows in that lighting setup. So that one was really fun to try out. This fourth one is a strong overhead light. So because when the lighting is stronger, the edges of the shadows are going to be much more defined. So a lot of the work with this one was just creating those like pretty hard edges without losing the forms and without losing the softness of the face. So that was also a really fun one to try. And that is also something to kind of keep in mind, is how strong your light source is, and also how close it is to the person's face. So in our very first example, it was a softer light source. It was probably farther away from her, and so it was a much more subtle effect, whereas that the guy that in the orange was a much stronger light source and probably much closer to him, so it's much stronger edges and it's much more clearly defined. This next one is I was thinking kind of like candlelight when I did it, so it's something where it's lit from below, it's very close up, but because it's such a soft single point light, It's still got a pretty soft transition from the lights to the shadows because it's a weak light source. It's not like a very strong light source. So yeah, like candlelight kind of a thing. So even though it is close to her, it's still weak, and it's going to end up with some very interesting shadows because of that. And then this last one is a light that's coming from the behind and is just lighting up the very edge of the character's face, and the rest of the face is in pretty deep shadows. So that one was also pretty fun to try to render. So yeah, hopefully this was helpful to you guys. There's the final image, and yeah, I am planning on doing some other lighting tutorials following this one, maybe experimenting with like colored light or just like you know, how to light different situations in general. So if there's any kind of other lighting thing that you would like me to touch on, let me know and I will make a tutorial about that. So yeah, with that, I hope that you all have a great week, and if you like this video, please like and subscribe. I make content like this every single week, so I hope to see you again. Thank you for watching. Bye!